How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stooky plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put, like the stooky that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else. Step 4. Survival kit. Every worker needs a survival kit. Survival kit level 1. This position gets the most exposure. Grab one when you need a sugar boost. Always keep a few treats you can offer your co-workers. Survival kit level 2. These are for hunger pangs before and after a meal. You'll need them when you take a coffee break with your office buddies. Survival kit level 3. Trash talking your boss with your soulmate. Did you survive in the workplace? Office romance? Be careful. Even the photocopier knows all the gossip.
혈액형은 ABO 또 A형 날 들킬까봐 매일 나를 숨겼어 I'm sorry 어떤 사람이 되고 싶었던 걸까 그런 사람이 되면 행복해질까 내 몫을 baby 밤새 것 같아도 매일 아침 널 볼 때 안아주고 싶다 정말 진심이야
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. President Lee Jae-myung, who's on a state visit to Mongolia, highlighted a new trade agreement and critical minerals cooperation as key areas for strengthening bilateral ties while speaking at a business forum. Korea and Mongolia are now seeking to increase bilateral trade to $1 billion by 2030. South Korean chipmaker SK hynix is set to list U.S. shares on the Nasdaq today, and the company reportedly plans to price its U.S. listing at $149 per American depository receipt. At that level, the offering would raise around $26.5 billion, making it the largest ever first-time share sale in the United States by a foreign company. The United States and Iran exchanged strikes for a third consecutive day. Washington launched new airstrikes against Iran early Thursday, while Tehran said it targeted U.S. assets in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar in response. We begin this morning with President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to Mongolia. After agreeing to open golden era in bilateral relations at Thursday's summit, Korea and Mongolia are trying to turn that vision into concrete economic cooperation. President Lee, speaking at a business forum, highlighted a new trade agreement and critical minerals as the next steps in strengthening bilateral ties. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports.
With Korea and Mongolia declaring the start of a golden era in bilateral relations, the next step is turning that vision into tangible gains. A key part of that effort is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement for which the two countries have reached an agreement in principle. Speaking at the Korea-Mongolia Business Forum after his summit with Mongolian President Hurresu Uzna on Thursday, President Lee Jae-myung said the deal marks a new turning point in economic cooperation.
상품과 서비스, 투자 분야에서 장벽이 낮아지면서 양국 기업들은 보다 안정적이고 예측 가능한 환경에서 새로운 시장과 사업 기회를 확대해 나갈 수 있을 것입니다.
Unlike a traditional free trade agreement focused primarily on tariffs, CEPA also places a strong emphasis on broader economic cooperation. A senior Blue House official said the summit helped narrow differences over market access and implementation timelines, leaving only technical details to be finalized. Through this, Korea and Mongolia aim to increase bilateral trade to $1 billion by 2030. Last year, the figure stood at just under $700 million. Critical minerals will be another key pillar of their strategic partnership.
Mongolia seeks to combine its abundant reserves of critical minerals, vast renewable energy potential, and strategic geographic location with Korea's manufacturing strength and technological innovation to expand joint production and play a greater role in regional supply chains.
This comes after Korea and Mongolia established a rare metal research center in Ulaanbaatar last December. The center analyzes rare metal resources, including tungsten, molybdenum, and lithium, while providing technical training in mineral processing and refining. President Lee's trip marks the first state visit to Mongolia by a South Korean president in 15 years. It also comes earlier in Lee's presidency than in any other administration, which the Blue House says reflects the two leaders' commitment to strengthen bilateral ties. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, Ulaanbaatar.
South Korean chipmaker SK hynix is set to raise about $26.5 billion through a blockbuster U.S. share sale, highlighting strong investor confidence in the booming AI semiconductor market. At the same time, Washington is stepping up efforts to attract Samsung Electronics and SK hynix to expand chip manufacturing in the United States. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
South Korean chipmaker SK hynix is set to raise about $26.5 billion through its U.S. listing in what is expected to become the world's second largest share sale after SpaceX's record-breaking IPO last month. According to sources familiar with the deal, SK hynix plans to price its American depository receipts at $149 each, ahead of its Nasdaq debut on Friday under the ticker symbol SKHY. The company is capitalizing on booming demand for artificial intelligence infrastructure, as it remains the world's leading supplier of high-bandwidth memory, or HBM chips. These advanced memory chips are a key component in AI processors used for training and running cutting-edge artificial intelligence models. The proceeds from the offering will be used to expand production capacity, including the construction of new factories and the purchase of additional manufacturing equipment to keep pace with the soaring global AI chip demand. Investor interest has been exceptionally strong. Sources say demand for the offering was more than 7 times greater than the number of available shares, highlighting confidence in SK hynix's central role in the rapidly growing AI supply chain.
There's a lot of attention there. There's an awful lot of demand. There's a lot of retail interest.
The company declined to comment on the pricing or investor demand. Meanwhile, the United States is continuing to push for greater semiconductor investment from South Korean companies. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said he wants Samsung Electronics and SK hynix to build more chip plants in the United States, revealing that discussions are already underway. Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for Micron's new semiconductor plant in New York on Thursday, Lutnick said he wants Micron's rivals to follow its lead in expanding manufacturing in America. Micron recently announced plans to invest more than $250 billion in U.S. semiconductor manufacturing and technology by 2035. Lutnick acknowledged that Micron's chief executive may not welcome more competition, but stressed that attracting Samsung Electronics and SK hynix is essential to further strengthening the U.S. semiconductor supply chain. 이승재, Arirang News.
And now for more on the SK hynix U.S. listing, we're joined today by Seong-Soo Eric Kim, founder and CEO at DataCrunch Global and a professor at Yonsei Graduate School of Business. Professor Kim, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you very, very much for having me this morning.
So SK hynix Nasdaq debut has already drawn massive interest, while improved access for U.S. investors is clearly a positive development. Some analysts say this does not necessarily translate into a higher valuation. What's your take on this?
I think that's very significant. It's the largest IPO for a foreign company to list on a U.S. stock market. And we have to understand that this strategy is totally aligned with the NVIDIA-led semiconductor initiative. So SK hynix being listed on U.S. stock market is a big shot, I think. So we expect that SK hynix will be able to play a more global strategy by being listed on Nasdaq today.
Right, and this is set to be the world's second biggest share sale after SpaceX's record-breaking $85 billion IPO last month. And industry watchers say this Nasdaq debut could mark a turning point for SK hynix to be recognized as a core global AI infrastructure company. What would you say, what would this mean for the company's future growth?
So it was surprising to listen to the announcement just 1 month ago at Taipei GPC that NVIDIA would buy about 60% of SK hynix HBM4 chips. And President Choi of SK promised that they will double the capacity just in 5 years. That's a very significant alliance that we're seeing. So based on the NVIDIA-led semiconductor tech scene, SK hynix is a very important partner. So by being listed on Nasdaq today, I believe that SK hynix can play a more global role in leading the semiconductor ecosystem together with NVIDIA.
And the global chip industry has become increasingly competitive. So what are the biggest challenges do you think SK hynix faces as it aims to strengthen its position as a global AI infrastructure powerhouse?
Well, I believe that we have a lot of speculations on the global memory demand. But what's really important is being able to supply in bulk quantity. Imagine NVIDIA. They want to buy from a reliable company. They don't want to buy from a lot of companies. That means that you have to be ready for capacity for these leading companies. So it's very important for SK hynix to secure the capacity. That's why they're building more factories. So in this era, capacity building is the most challenging thing that I would imagine, counter to the speculation that there will be oversupply. Even in situations that memories are oversupplied, we need some players that has capacity. Those will be the first servers of this game.
I see. And what does SK hynix U.S. listing mean for South Korea's broader semiconductor industry and its efforts to attract global investment?
I think we have to rethink about our semiconductor strategy. Until now on, we were, of course, leading the memory industry by SK hynix and Samsung. And we also have foundry, which we don't lead, but we're the second best foundry manufacturer, followed by TSMC. But we have to be more global. So if we look at our Honam cluster and Chungnam and Gyeongsang cluster plan, I hope that the government thinks about globalizing those clusters. For example, Micron has a factory in Taiwan, and they are also going to build a factory in Japan. We have to think about globalizing those clusters, inviting semiconductor tech companies and foreign university labs and fabless ICD, which is integrated circuit design companies that design semiconductors. We have to attract all of these global companies to these clusters. That's the only way that we're going to lead this global race for semiconductors.
I see. All right, Professor Kim, thank you so much for your time and insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
A fragile ceasefire in the Middle East is on the verge of collapse as the United States and Iran exchange military strikes for a third consecutive day. The latest cross-border fire marks the first time the U.S. has targeted internal Iranian infrastructure since April. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
The United States and Iran exchanged military strikes for a third consecutive day on Thursday, putting a fragile peace agreement to the test. The temperature has been raised further by Israel as it signaled its readiness to rejoin the military campaign. Israel's defense minister said the military is maintaining a high state of alert and is fully prepared to resume operations against Iran, including airstrikes, if necessary, to eliminate threats.
The IDF is on alert and ready to renew the campaign, to reestablish aerial superiority, and to carry out a blue-white strike in Iran to remove threats, even for a third time. If we will have to return, we will return with even greater force.
Early Thursday, U.S. Central Command launched cruise missiles deep into Iranian territory in an effort to degrade Tehran's ability to threaten shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The strikes hit Iran-Shah airport and targeted two railway bridges in northern Iran, including the Ak-Takeh-Khan Bridge. According to U.S. media, the action marked the first time the U.S. has targeted Iranian infrastructure since a two-week ceasefire was agreed on April 8th. Iran's health ministry reported that the ongoing U.S. air campaign has killed at least 14 people and injured 78 others. Explosions were also reported near southern port infrastructure in Bandar Abbas and Sirik. In response, Iran launched retaliatory strikes targeting U.S. and allied military assets in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Jordan. U.S. President Donald Trump said that while he believes the ceasefire with Iran is over, the recent escalation does not mean a return to war. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
And Wall Street closed higher across the board on Thursday, despite ongoing tensions between the United States and Iran, as gains in semiconductor stocks and a sharp decline in oil prices lifted investor sentiment. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.27% to close at 52,487.41. The S&P 500 gained 0.81% to close at 7,543.64, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq jumped 1.3% to end trading at 26,206. Meanwhile, crude oil prices fell about 2% as concerns over weakening global demand outweighed fears of supply disruptions stemming from U.S.-Iran tensions. Brent crude for September delivery settled at $76.30 a barrel on the ICE Futures Exchange, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude for August delivery fell nearly 2% to close at $72.08 a barrel on the New York Mercantile Exchange. One person is missing and more than 750 people have been evacuated from their homes amid torrential rain across Korea on Thursday. That's according to the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, which added that as of 5 a.m. Friday, 453 cases of property damage had also been reported. The Chungcheongdo provinces were hit hardest, with most areas receiving more than 200 millimeters of rain between midnight Wednesday and 5 p.m. on Thursday. Meanwhile, search efforts are continuing for a man in his 70s who was swept away by floodwaters in Gyeongsangbuk-do province. The government has urged relevant officials and local governments to ensure residents in high-risk areas are evacuated ahead of heavy rain. Korean defense shipbuilding is making waves at this year's RIMPAC, the world's largest international maritime exercise taking place around the Hawaiian Islands, as foreign warships built in Korea showcase their capabilities. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
They may fly foreign flags, but they are made in Korea. At Rim of the Pacific 2026, what caught the Defense Press Corps' eyes were foreign warships built by South Korean shipyards. One of them was the HMNZS Aotearoa, the Royal New Zealand Navy's largest fleet replenishment vessel, which was built by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries and delivered to New Zealand in 2020. Another vessel attracting attention was the Philippine Navy's newest 3,200-ton frigate that looks so similar to the ROK Navy's 3,100-ton frigate Daejeon, also taking part in RIMPAC.
I'm on board one of the Philippines' newest frigates, BRP Miguel Marbar. Built by a South Korean shipyard, it serves as a frontline combat ship in the Philippine Navy.
Also built by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries, it entered service in May last year. The ship's commanding officer says he has witnessed her great capabilities.
So far, we have not encountered any problems about the ship. It has a very nice capability, very good seakeeping, and it's the seaworthiness and the design is so far so good. The Korean shipyard really have a good design for this frigate.
When asked about the reason behind choosing the South Korean shipyard, the commanding officer underlined its speediness and support.
So it was constructed fast, and then we were able to commission our ships on time. And then the Korean defense companies were really supportive for us when it comes to the sustainment and other related matters, training and everything.
Already operating around 10 Korean-built warships, the Philippines signed a deal last December for 2 additional frigates, again proving what made in Korea means. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Honolulu.
Good morning, I'm Choo Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. Germany will buy Tomahawk cruise missiles from the United States and station them on German soil, marking a shift toward an independent long-range strike capability. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Thursday that the deal, which was finalized during NATO meetings in Ankara this week, exceeded expectations. The agreement addresses a strategic gap left after U.S. President Donald Trump signaled reduced American troop presence in Germany earlier this year. Washington has committed to formal approval next month for Germany to acquire the missiles and ground-based launch systems. The purchase aligns with Trump's broader push for European allies to fund their own defense capabilities through American weapons purchases. A fire in a shoe factory in southeastern China on Thursday has killed at least 28 people, including workers trapped on the roof of the multi-story building. The blaze erupted around midday in Jinjiang, a major footwear manufacturing hub in Fujian province. 213 of the 239 people believed to have been in the factory escaped, although 2 died later from injuries. Preliminary findings indicate the fire began on the ground floor, where highly flammable shoemaking materials allowed flames to spread rapidly through the structure. Authorities have detained company personnel and frozen business accounts pending investigation. Chinese President Xi Jinping has demanded strict accountability following the incident. The Democratic Republic of Congo has confirmed suspected Ebola cases in a new province. It said on Wednesday that the 2 suspected cases have emerged in Kisangani, a major city in Tshopo province, prompting immediate containment measures, including enhanced surveillance and contact tracing. The outbreak has already killed 600 people since it began in May. The World Health Organization stated this week that transmission continues expanding as population movement drives the spread. Separately, Ebola response workers staged protests on Thursday outside treatment centers, demanding payment for services rendered since the outbreak began. Health Minister Samuel Roger Kamba said there had been administrative problems with worker payment systems. Welsh singer Bonnie Tyler, best known for her 1983 hit Total Eclipse of the Heart, died on Thursday in a Portuguese hospital where she had been receiving treatment. Tyler underwent emergency surgery in May and had shown signs of recovery. Her family confirmed the news in a statement expressing heartbreak over her unexpected death. Tyler earned 3 Grammy nominations and represented Britain at the 2013 Eurovision Song Contest. She was honored with the Order of the British Empire in 2022 for her contributions to music.
Most of the rain clouds have moved out to northeast, and this round of monsoon rain will take a short break from late this afternoon. And since the rainy season began, parts of Chungcheongdo provinces have received more than 200 millimeters of accumulated rainfall. Now the focus turns back to the heat. While Central Korea cools down number-wise after the rain, heat advisories remain in place across Gyeongsangdo provinces and surrounding regions. In fact, the heat will continue to build up through the weekend, and Daegu will see highs soaring to 35 degrees Celsius. And this afternoon, Seoul gets up to 29 degrees. Gwangju and Jeju will be topping out at 32. Daegu, Gyeongju will make it to 33 degrees Celsius. But please beware of passing showers in the afternoon and keep an umbrella handy. While the rainy season is not over yet, the next widespread round of rain is expected around the middle of next week.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
Let's go! Simply K-pop!
something that you never seen. I'm a different gene. I'm a different gene. Send me the mood. Send me the fun. Get it on this groove.
이은 널 볼 수 있다면 나 다시는 사랑하지 않을래. 그 사랑을 사랑한 날 사랑했네. 이 기적이야 몰랐어 미안해. Then this week, Simply K-pop. Don't miss out.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Friday, July 10th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Kyun.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Also, Wonbin's with us.
Hello, good to be here.
Good to have you. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're finally at the end of the work week, but before we head into the weekend, let's turn our attention to an observance that highlights one of the world's biggest long-term challenges. So, World Population Day, marked every year on July 11th, puts global population issues in focus, from aging societies and falling birth rates to migration, urbanization, and unequal access to resources. So it's a timely reminder of the demographic changes reshaping societies around the world. So before we get into this, Kyun, can you tell us what exactly is World Population Day?
To add on to what you just said, World Population Day is an annual event held on July 11th, which seeks to raise awareness of global population issues, including family planning, maternal health, gender equality, and human rights. So it was established by the United Nations Development Program in 1989, inspired by the world reaching about 5 billion people on July 11th, 1987. So in simple terms, the day is meant to remind governments and the public that population trends affect many parts of society, including healthcare, education, employment, housing, food security, and of course, the environment.
So can you just mention how it reached 5 billion people on July 11th, 1987? So since then, how have global population trends shifted?
Right, so it's quite interesting because since the World Population Day was established in 1987, the world population was actually 5 billion back then, as Kyun just mentioned. And in 2026, which is about 40 years later, the number has gone up to 8 billion, from 5 billion to 8 billion, which is a 60% increase. Now, this definitely is a double-edged sword because, yes, the population is growing because the world is developing, but at the same time, some countries struggle from high birth rates and starvation and poverty, while other countries struggle with having low birth rates. So, in short, the rising population is causing polarization among countries and nations.
So today is a day for our weekly debate where we take a closer look at one of the world's biggest demographic challenges. So that's our topic today. And population trends are reshaping economies, societies, even the future of our planet. So before we get into our debate, let's start with the big question. Is the world still facing overpopulation problem, or are today's population challenges more complicated than that one?
Well, the answer would depend on your perspective. So this definitely is a subjective question in many ways. However, statistically, if we talk statistically, yes, we are facing an overpopulation problem right now. Because just about 2,000 years ago, the world population was only 300 million, which is less than 5% of the current world population. And since civilization began to build its empire, we saw an exponential growth in the number of people on Earth. And this means that we are currently way above the natural population capacity of Earth, and there are voices saying that it is, excuse me, it is leading to climate changes and destruction of natural habitat.
So that view sees population growth as placing increasing pressure on both people and the planet. And obviously, climate change is another big issue. So is population or overpopulation really causing climate change?
There are differing views on this issue, like just one being mentioned. Some argue that it is misleading to think that population size directly affects climate issues. Now, according to one study, although the share of people born in low-income countries has doubled as proportion of the global population, their demand for resources, food, etc., still accounts for only 3% of the global demand, which pretty much goes against the theory. And this supports the view that the focus should be less on population numbers and more on regulating excessive carbon emissions or footprints of some developed countries, as it's those countries that pose a bigger threat and negative impact on the environment. And we've seen this through a lot of data as well. So basically, it's more about how one person acts, what they eat, what they consume, and what they emit at the same time, that it really affects the environment rather than the actual number of people.
Right. So I guess from that viewpoint, it's the bigger issue is not population itself, but it's more consumption. But the debate looks very different when we turn our focus to Korea, because obviously Korea, we hear about government policies always pumping out different measures to promote population, increase the population. So, but why is South Korea facing such an opposite population challenge then?
The simple answer is fertility rate. South Korea has in recent years, we've seen signs of recovery since last year. Not recent year, from last year. But it hit a record low of 0.42 births per woman in 2023. Now, South Korea is considered one of the countries experiencing the fastest population decline in the world, and at the same time becoming one of the fastest aging population. So in response, the government has introduced various childbirth incentives, including the first meeting voucher and medical expense support, which offers benefits ranging from several million won to, in some cases, tens of millions of won for new parents, along with low interest rates for new young parents who seek to take out a mortgage loan on their first house. However, there are still differing opinions on the effectiveness and the potential side effects of trying to encourage childbirth, some suggesting that it's not all about the money when it comes to raising a child, but rather a long-term commitment that many young people these days would rather not take at all, or kind of just push back as long as they can. Because, I mean, we have a longer life expectancy, people are living longer, healthier lives, which means that they don't really necessarily need to get married when our parents or even when our grandparents got married. So we like to delay that. And at the same time, there's so many socio-economic issues, like, can we afford a house before we get married? No, it's almost impossible, especially in the Seoul metropolitan area. And we have such a concentrated population here in the Seoul metropolitan area. So many young people are thinking, should I get married? How am I going to get married?
Can I get married?
Can I get married? So they kind of just give up on that and just live their own lives, which is one of the main reasons why we have such low fertility rates. Because even though a lot of people are actually getting married, they don't want to have kids. So they want to become DINK, double income, no income, no kids in that category. So, like I said, this is a big issue that we have to change in many different areas, but we can't just say, oh, it's because of the population. You know, it's not just because we have low population, things are happening like climate issues. So it's a serious issue that we all need to consider in many different areas.
And that's why we see so many targeted policies from the government these days, including with housing, although there's still a long way to go. So this all explains why boosting births has become such a national priority for Korea. But whether current policies are the right solution remains open to debate. And this leads us to our first debate question. Our panelists have paddles, OX paddles, ready. So the first question that I will be asking our panelists is, then should governments offer financial incentives to encourage people to have more children? So this is very relevant to people, because we're all living in Korea right now. So what are your thoughts on this, both of you? Yes or no on this? No for you, yes for Wonbin. So Wonbin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I definitely agree on the cash incentive, cash bonus, because when the birth rate or fertility rate, when the population decreases in a country, it leads to catastrophic results that are basically irreversible. We're talking about depletion of national pension, lack of labor and manpower, and even having gaps in national defense. So in order to rapidly change the trend of the population and the birth rate of a country, and when I say rapidly, I don't mean like actually quickly, I mean like just in time to save the nation. They must offer highly attractive incentives to make people to have kids. And in case of Korea or most other countries, that would be, as the question said, a cash bonus. And if we don't do that, and if we wait until the population to rebound naturally, at that point, it might be already too late to save the country. Yeah, so yes, I agree.
I kind of agree with Wonbin, but I think it's not just all about money. I think population policy should kind of shift its paradigm away from simply just filling the numbers and more toward protecting individual choice and quality of life before money. So while cash-based support may increase birth figures in the short term, I do not believe it can serve as a fundamental solution in the long run. Instead, greater focus should be placed on improving the quality of life and welfare of younger generations, and ultimately change the mindset of women who are in their ideal childbearing age by actually seeing and believing that raising a child and starting your own family is something that money can't buy, and it brings so much values in life. It's a true source of happiness that far exceeds just one's freedom that they can get by staying single. So I think offering cash incentives can't really change a person's mindset when it comes to having a child, because there are so many different huge factors that actually come into play when they actually decide to make that big decision. Am I going to get married? Am I going to have a child, or even 2 kids or 3, so on, or start a family? So I think if you have cash incentives, yes, it may be a source of kind of motivation, but in the long run, it's not just about money. It's much more than that. Wonbin.
I partially agree. Yes.
And I can see why the government is offering cash incentives. It's like almost not kind of an easy solution, most evident, because obviously like housing is such a big issue. To get housing, you need money for that. But
it's kind of like a first aid kit. So for example, when a bleeding happens, a first aid kit doesn't fundamentally solve the whole problem, but it does the first steps to block it temporarily. Yeah, temporarily until proper cure and healing can be done to it. Yeah.
Right. I think what you said earlier about how showing women, or both men and women, that having children would be nice, it will improve their life. It's a way to do it, but I guess it's hard to think of how to do it. Maybe there should be more shows to show how it's like an ideal life to have that nuclear family. I mean, it's hard to think of, I guess, practical ideas to do that though. So in other words, improving quality of life may matter more than simply offering larger cash payments. So it is a debate with no easy answers, and one that many countries will continue to face. So we also wanted to hear directly from our viewers. So we ran a poll on Yada News YouTube channel asking, should the government offer cash incentives to encourage childbirth? And here's what the results showed. So 69% said no, more fundamental solutions are needed, while 31% of viewers said yes, they are necessary. So the results show that while some viewers see financial incentives as an important tool, a clear majority believe the low birth rate crisis requires deeper, long-term solutions beyond simply providing cash support. But population concerns are not only about declining birth rates. Some countries are also debating how to manage population growth. So why are some countries considering, I was kind of surprised to hear this population caps one.
Well, the biggest reason, the biggest cause of this concept of having this population cap, it's not really directly from birth rate, but it's more from immigration and immigrants. Although technically immigration is related to the low birth rate, but the direct cause would be immigration. So what happens is when a big number of immigrants enter a country, regardless of this being right or wrong, the people who are born and raised in that country tends to form an anti-immigration mindset where they kind of go against the newcomers. And there are many different reasons for this, but in short, it's often due to the cultural differences or sometimes unfairness in terms of welfare and social support. Like, oh, why do they get health care when I was the one who was paying for my whole life and they just get it for free? For example, Switzerland recently held a referendum for having a population cap, and it's a law that capped the total population of Switzerland to 10 million, which includes all foreigners and immigrants too. And although it didn't pass at the end, 45% of the voters still agreed upon this, which shows how many people have conflicts or emotions towards this problem. And this isn't only for Switzerland, this problem is very common among most of the developed Western countries.
This reminds me of like China's one-child policy. I'm kind of surprised that Switzerland 45 is almost half the population, so that is quite surprising. So this shows how population issues can become closely tied to debates over immigration, resources, and also national identity. However, population caps remain highly controversial, with critics warning of unintended consequences. And now for our second and last debate question of the day. So our panelists have their paddles ready again. So are population caps a necessary solution for some countries, the countries namely facing overpopulation? So yes or no? What are your answers for this?
No.
So Kim says no. This time, Kim, do you want to go first?
It's a big no. Yes, I will. So in countries already facing low birth rates, a population cap will be a huge major blow to the economy. And as an example, like what Wonbin just mentioned, adding to what Wonbin mentioned about the recent referendum held in Switzerland, other than the 45% who voted for the population cap, the Swiss government had expressed its opposition to the proposal even before the referendum, warning that it could cause economic disruption. In a statement issued ahead of the vote, the government warned that a population cap could undermine national stability and adversely affect economic growth and prosperity. The government, along with voters from the capital Bern, where large companies are concentrated, which obviously affect the overall economy of Switzerland, they were highly against this population cap, and they welcomed the rejection of the proposal, showing a stark contrast in views. But it clearly shows that they're very against, and they're arguing against population caps as it directly affects one country's economy.
Well, if we look at the other side of the field, many recent cases demonstrate that simply just accepting more immigrants and newcomers to the country doesn't necessarily boost the economy of the country. For example, Canada and Australia, Germany, and the UK has accepted a massive number of immigrants since 2017. However, the economic performance didn't really show any noticeable changes. And on the other hand, and in fact, it was actually causing a number of side effects such as rent prices going up rapidly and lacking public infrastructure due to the sudden rise of the population. So accepting immigrants or newcomers, it seems like it causes many side effects or potential damages that are very difficult to turn back, that are pretty much irreversible. But when we kind of look at the effect or the reward that we get from it, it's unsure. It's not guaranteed. So I think the country should take a bit more of a cautious approach. So I think the country should set a population cap.
I just saw a clip yesterday from with Marco Rubio, who's talking about the difference between what he thought was the difference between mass migration and immigration. He was saying how it's leaning more towards mass migration these days, and a lot of countries don't have infrastructure set in. So he's saying it would be harmful to both people that are coming into the country and also people that are there. So harmful to both sides. I thought that was quite interesting. He compared mass migration basically to a rain. He said rain is important. Like he's in support of immigration, but at the same time, floods are dangerous for everyone. So I think that was an interesting take on that.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
Right, it was quite interesting. So it seems the debate is not simply about how many people a country should have, but about how societies can balance economic needs, resources, and quality of life. And ultimately, demographic challenges are complex, and there's no single solution that fits every country. So we also wanted to hear directly from our viewers on this as well. So we ran a second poll on Arirang News YouTube channel asking, should countries impose population caps? And here's what the results showed. So 60% said no, suggesting that a clear majority remain unconvinced that population caps are the right approach, while 40% of viewers said yes, although significant numbers support limiting population growth. So the results suggest that while concerns about rapid population growth are real, most viewers believe setting a population limit may not be the best way to address them. So with that, we've explored both sides of one of today's most complex global issues. So after today's discussion, Kyun, what are your final thoughts on this issue? And what do you think then, this is a big question, I guess, what do you think is the best way to tackle these population challenges?
That's a tough question, but I think I had so much fun talking about this topic because it really relates to us the more we think about it. Because if we just think about ourselves and just our lives in this planet, we don't really need to consider all these factors. But if we think a bit more ahead about our next generation, whether we get married or not, this is becoming more of a serious issue. So I think demographic challenges are becoming more serious and over time may become catastrophic for some countries, including South Korea. So to curb this trend, the government lawmakers, along with experts in this particular field, really need to come together, put their heads together and to come up with a long-term plan that can change the population crisis that fits their country's current status. Increasing or decreasing the population may not be the absolute solution, but rather restructuring areas that need immediate changes can help a country kind of redirect its path towards more of a sustainable future. And I think, like I mentioned before, encouraging more people to get married, one way could be like giving cash incentives, but like I said, that's not everything. It's the first step, like Wonbin mentioned, it's like the first aid kit, but it's not a cure, So we need to think about what can really change young people's mindsets towards getting married and having kids. If you meet the right person, things will change, but that itself is not easy these days. I don't know why, because we have so much entertainment going on, It's not, life isn't all about marriages, but compared to our parents' generation, even our grandparents' generation, they didn't have smartphones and they had nothing else to do. So it's like starting a family, and they were born and raised in a family within that culture, saying you have to get married before 30. Like we had those age limits, but nowadays people are getting laid much later in their lives, and because there's so much more to do, pursuing their career paths. Yeah. I don't know, studying more fun to do. They just want to enjoy being single because, that's YOLO. You only live once. But at the same time, because I'm gonna get married very soon, my mindset has changed completely. And I was one of the people who thought I'm not gonna get married. I can't get married. I'm not gonna have any kids because I'm not gonna get married, obviously. But now everything has changed.
So what do you think has changed? What do you think the government could do to help other people change their mind?
That's going to take way more. It takes a whole another session. Yeah.
But housing problems, that's obviously the biggest factor. We need to change that first.
I guess that would relate to encouraging young people to have children as well.
Exactly. If you live in a small place, how are you going to raise a kid? Right. That infrastructure, you need that kind of environment.
Right, it can't just be a small area.
Exactly. That's just going to cause more stress, and it's going to be it's gonna snowball into a bigger problem. So changing the fundamentals, having a proper environment to raise a child is the beginning. But it's going to take time, but we need to make better changes right now. I know the government is trying to take the right step, but right now, the housing prices are even going up in the opposite direction. So I think we need to find better solutions moving forward.
I guess that's an area that the government should continue to work on, though. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I don't think there's anything more for me to add on the overall population problem. That Kyun just did a perfect explanation of everything. So I know this is a little bit off topic, but I just want to touch a little bit on the immigration and the social conflicts that occurs because of immigration. So as someone who studied in Canada, I personally witnessed the conflicts between people who are born in the country and the newcomers to the country. There are many conflicts, there are many fights, people are very sensitive to each other, and it usually came because, again, from cultural differences and lack of respect and lack of understanding each other. And I think that is one of the core reasons why people build up this anti-immigration mindset, and which also leads to these extreme proposals such as population caps. While these laws can definitely help to regulate the country, I guess this is a bit of a different fundamental approach. I think it's, we say there's a saying that says we can't enforce people to love each other. You can't just set a law that says, okay, you two will love each other. Then that doesn't mean that, okay, we're in love now. It's a person-to-person interaction. We have to communicate. We have to understand each other. So majority of the conflicts, or at least more than half of the problems, social conflicts that comes from immigration, I believe that the regulation can help, but it also should start from people understanding each other, taking a step back, trying to be a little bit more considerate. So there's the regulation side that should be dealt with, and there's also a problem that we as a nation, as a society, should solve too.
I love what you said there, because I think it's so important. I think a lot of the wariness and defensiveness kind of comes from not understanding why a certain person is acting that way. A lot of times it's tied to their culture. So I think raising understanding of other people's culture, all different cultures, is an important step. So population challenges may look very different from one country to another, but they all shape the future in profound ways. And as today's discussion show, there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and striking the right balance won't be easy. But what's certain is that these conversations will only become more important in the years ahead. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back on Monday at 10:30 in Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Kyun.
It's always a pleasure.
To have it also, Bongbin.
Thank you for having me today.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching, and may your weekend be packed with fun, not people. We are
News Generation.
Here are 22 volumes. At first glance, they may seem like ordinary old books. But the moment you unfold and connect them one by one, a remarkable scene emerges. A mid-19th century map of Korea, hand-drawn with its mountains and rivers, the 대동여지도. Fully unfolded, it becomes a massive map about 6.7 meters in height. But what's truly astonishing is not its size. It vividly depicts how mountain ranges extend from Baekdusan Mountain to form the land, and how rivers win their way through villages. Like modern maps, it uses symbols clearly, with 10 re-intervals to guide travelers. A truly groundbreaking idea for its time. Another reason this map is remarkable, a woodblock print. Made practical for all classes, 양반, elite, and commoners alike to use. Comparable even to modern surveying techniques, this map was not created by the genius of Kim Jong-ho alone.